Welcome to Recovery Unfiltered. I'm Larry.
You sit on the toilet, don't you? Use that as your meditation.
I'm Rob. Not our wives. Nobody listening to this podcast has eaten a shit sandwich. They didn't have a hand to make it. It's true.
Once again, I can't get that fucking out of there. I gotta leave it in.
And we still haven't re-recorded it.
No, we're too fucking lazy. We're too lazy. Hi, Rob.
How you doing, Larry?
I am well, buddy. I am well.
Are we affiliated with anybody?
I don't know. Tell me.
No, we are not.
What? Are you sure?
No alphabets at all.
Last I heard, STD was maybe a possibility.
I got the shot for that. I'm clear. But no AA, no NA, STD, THP, nothing. We are not affiliated with anybody. We're just two drunks trying to help other people.
Yes, we are. We are two drunks out here on this.
Actually, we're not, because drunks stay drunk. Alcoholics get sober. That's what we are.
There you go. Thanks for the clarification.
You got it.
Hey, if you want to reach out to us, reach us at recoveryunfilteredpodcast at gmail.com. That's recoveryunfilteredpodcast@gmail.com. So how you been, bud?
I've been excellent. How have you been? Well, I tell you what, as you can hear, I don't like my voice anyway, but I've been under the weather this week, so I sound a little more congested.
You sound a little,
but you know
your
what?
voice sounds better, quite honestly. Can you do that every week?
I will try.
It kind of turns me
this
on.
week I know we're sponsored by Boones Farms.
Yeah. Hey, you can hold on. We got
when our guest tells his story, you'll understand where I'm going with this.
Yeah, kind of looking forward to that one.
Boones
So,
Farms.
yeah, I want to give an update on my friend Chris.
Oh shit!
Yeah, let's just say I'm 0-3 on non-sponsees.
Well, he didn't mess around.
No.
But you know what?
Say it.
I have never seen. I mean, I've done a lot for, and I'm sure our guest has too. But I've done a lot, for people, and help men get sober and getting some women. But you did as much for that man as I've seen another man do. I mean, to the nth degree. And the minute he got a little freedom,
right? Here's the thing about it, Rob, and I'm going to say this. My daughters and my wife and everybody was very worried about, if I was going to get affected if he goes back out and starts drinking and this and that. And I told him, I said, I don't know. I don't think so.
Well,
but
we're disappointed, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gravely disappointed, right? I'm gravely is probably a rough word, but I am extremely disappointed. Right. And it's same things that you and me and Brad's talked about, another sponsee that I was working with. That's who knows where he's at. And he's out there in the wind. And I mean, am I disappointed? Yeah. Am I hurt? I am. But you know what? I'm going to go on and help another person. And I'm not even
because you stayed sober.
Right. And by honestly helping him kept me sober. Right. And am I sad about it? I fucking am. I'm sad about it. It sucks. I mean, talking to his sister and talking to another guy that's been helping us and going back and forth, knowing damn good and well, but what was so funny, well, not funny. I want to be careful. Ironic is he called me and I knew when he came out of rehab that I was going to be out of town, which was going to be very difficult, but I had other people that was helping and other people that was doing some stuff as I was going to be out of town to kind of help him stay involved in stuff. And he calls me up second day I was out of town and he goes, "Hey, you're going to be mad at me." And I go, "What'd you do? Go drink?" "Yeah." And I go, "I'm not mad at you. Why would I be mad at you?" I go, "That's your decision, Chris, if you want to go drink." "Oh man." He goes, "I had one glass of wine and then, man, I started to drink the second one and I just couldn't do it." And I go, "Did you go buy it or did you find one left over in your house?" He says, I found one left over in my house." I was like, "Okay, yeah." I go, "Let's, how are we going to respond?" I said, "So-and-so's going to be at your house tonight to pick you up, take you to primary and so on and so forth." And he said, "Okay." And, and then he went to primary that night, the next night, and then he was gone.
Yeah.
Gone. Yeah.
Phenomenon of craving.
Yeah. He was hooked back on it. And, you've heard us say it several times is, even if you didn't have bottom, that hole is still there. And he fell right back into it. He's texted me a couple times.
But let me ask you this. Are you surprised?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't.
No.
Right? I wasn't. He was fighting a memory issue. He was fighting some things here and there. And he had a rough road, probably rougher than others, to maintain his sobriety, right? He was fighting a memory issue, right? But I'm not going to let him use that as an excuse either, right? When he woke up every day and he remembered he was an alcoholic, he knew well enough to stay away, right? He knew what he was doing. When he called me and apologized, he knew what he was doing.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I got a few texts from him and whatever. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
All I could do is pray for him and hope that he finds his way back. If he doesn't, that's not on me.
No.
Right.
We'll be at his funeral here shortly.
Yeah. And it's a sad situation. You know who I worry? I'm sad more for his sister. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. I felt bad for his sister, man, when I had to call and tell her.
Because she's about to bury two siblings.
Yeah, she's fighting
from this disease.
Right. Yeah. And it sucks. It's a very miserable disease,
but Katie, it's treatable.
Yes.
There is a solution.
Yes.
I'm on that chapter right here. I was,
I mean, Katie and I were just talking about this morning. I mean, I said something and I go, you know what, Katie, because she asked me, how are you doing with that? I said, I'm fine. I grieve this disease more than I grieve the person that's lost in it, right? Because the disease is what captured him, right? The disease is what's captured him. It's not the person. It's not him, right? I fucking grieve this disease, and it's just fucking sucks. And it's just like, what?
But it's not alcohol's fault.
No, it's not.
It's his fault.
Yes, 100%. And there's nothing we can do. There's absolutely nothing we can do.
And I say that for this reason. My wife was watching a TV show when I came home. Went with Brandon to he took me to his, where he's been going to church and having men's breakfast on Saturday. And then we went to a meeting. And I came home and she was looking at me smiling. I said, what? She goes, you would hate what's going on. It's a TV show guest. And this woman's in rehab from crack. She's a crack addict. And in this treatment center, they're telling her, it's not your fault. It's the drugs that made you do it. It's not your fault. You might as well just go sitting with a bag of crack back out in the street,
right?
By what you're doing,
right? Yeah, it's
no ownership,
right?
No culpability. It's the drugs' fault. Shut up.
No, it's like I said, it's just extreme. I grieve this disease that is there, and that I can't. Once again, it goes back to the whole reason why why we started this podcast is I can't beat it over the head to people that don't understand this disease. And I try so hard, and when I speak to people, to get them to understand this disease, and I want to turn a wrench in somebody's head and go and just turn a dial and say, there it is, and fix it. And you can't, right? You can't. And once again, Chris may or may not be gone. I don't know, but it ain't up to me. It's not up to me. And what I started to say in the very beginning, I gave 1,000% of myself to help him. Mm-hmm. So I am not upset one bit about it. Right. Because I know I did everything I could. Mm-hmm. I did everything I could. I gave him everything I got. I gave him my time. I gave him my efforts. I gave it everything. If I half-assed it, I probably could be upset a little bit and say, oh, Larry, you could have done better. But I didn't. I did not. I gave everything I had to that man. And it is what it is. It's like playing a sport. If you give 110% in anything you do, you can't be sad that you lost. You gave everything. It just wasn't enough. So I gave you everything I got. It wasn't enough. And so it goes, right? And I pray. So, hey, we got a guest in today. And when Michael was here, I said there was two guys that greeted me the first time I walked into Primary Purpose. Michael was the first. And this man that's sitting here to my right was the second. And this man has more love in one finger than most people do in their whole body. Welcome in, sir.
And years of sobriety.
Who are you?
Thanks, Larry. I'm Dawson. And it's good to be here with you and Rob. Yeah.
Thank you, Dawson. Like I said, you just had those welcoming eyes, and you're so, one of the things that's super hard for newcomers is walking into an AA meeting that first time by themselves, right? I walked in there 100% by myself. And I had no idea what to expect. And I just remember walking in with you, seeing you and Michael. You two were the first ones I saw, and I knew I was okay, right? I really did know I was okay. I knew I had some great love there and support. And with Jay and Jeanette, it was just awesome. And then they had to go fuck it up and send Rob my way.
They sent you my way. Get that shit right.
Yeah. That was the direction.
Yeah.
You notice that they didn't send me to Dawson or Michael or anything.
They love them enough not to do that to them.
That's funny.
Because they called me, and Dawson already told him, hey, wait till Rob gets here. Fuck, give him to him. I've done my time.
So tell us about yourself, Dawson.
But usually, Dawson, we start with your the date you got sober. With young Dawson, my sobriety date is just to let people know, because you've done the deal. You're doing the deal.
All right. Yeah. My sobriety date is October 13th, 1986. In fact, it was a Tuesday.
Wow. You remember the day?
I remember it, yeah. And went to my first meeting, and that welcoming thing, they had greeters at the door. I got sober over in the Bay Area, the Concord Originals group. And, they had two guys at the door, and I heard so much laughter and talking inside, I thought I was in the wrong place because I wasn't laughing, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. So anyway, I turned around and started to head out, and the two guys said, "Hey, you looking for the meeting?" I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, it's in here." And then they asked, "Well, what's your name?" And I said, "Bob."
You did.
I said, "Bob." Yeah, because I didn't know, whenever I made reservations at a restaurant, I'd give the name Bob, because if I said Dawson, people can remember that, and that's an unusual name.
Right.
And Bob, if Bob has to fight his way out of the restaurant, or
Yeah.
or makes an ass of himself, that was Bob.
Don't let that prick back in here.
Right.
That's smart. Hey, that's smart. I never even thought of that.
Hey, we're learning. What we're doing is we're taking
Well, I don't
notes
have to now. I'm sober.
Well, shit, I'm taking notes for when I go back out.
Oh, we won't make it back. Bob. But my name's Robert, so I can't say Bob.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, big meetings over there. So I had two greeters at the door. And
When you say big meetings, how many people are we talking to?
Well, 40 to 60 is like a average meeting. A lot of places, yeah.
So, tell us about your drinking. What got you to AA? What got you to that meeting first?
Well, I started drinking when I was a teenager. I was actually 17. And one day I was, there's a lot of trouble at home. I left home, basically ran away, and took my bicycle and my sleeping bag, went down to the hippie park. And, because I was looking for some weed, because I didn't drink in those days, because everybody who I knew who drank, they couldn't handle themselves at all. In fact, one time I was at a dance and hanging out with the light show guys, and they were all drunk, and they couldn't drive their van home. So they asked me to drive, and I said, "Hey," I said, "I'm not drinking, but I dropped some acid a while ago." And it was a stick shift, and I learned how to drive a stick shift.
Did you drive it?
On acid? Oh, terribly. Yes.
Okay, what year is this we're talking?
Oh, shoot, that was...
Ballpark it.
Oh, that was somewhere 69, 70.
Nice.
Yeah.
In the LSD time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Perfect timing.
Yeah. So there was lots of, recreational stuff around. And it was easy to get.
But you thought that was okay. You just wasn't going to touch alcohol.
Right, because everybody got all fucked up on it. And I had to take care of them because I wasn't doing the alcohol.
And the purple dinosaurs jumping across the road from the LSD was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So tell us a little bit. So when you walked into, you didn't do a rehab. You went to an actual AA. But what happened for you to say, I got to get my ass into the AA meeting?
Okay, well, I in my drinking career, I had 5 drunk drivings. And, I went to all the classes for each drunk driving and all that. And on my 5th drunk driving, I was up in the Bay Area. They sent me to school. And for the first time, somebody talked about Alcoholics Anonymous. I had never heard of Alcoholics Anonymous.
In the previous 4.
The previous 4,
Wow.
which were in the valley here. And, so anyway, this guy came and he took the class for a couple nights and he told his story. And this guy, he drank just like I did. I could relate. Man, this guy, he was all right. And then all of a sudden he gets sober. And I go, what is that? Well, I don't get it. Even though I've had 5 drunk drivings, sobriety, I don't not for me. So anyway, after the class, I went up to him and said, hey, you know, I really liked your story. And if you ever decide to start drinking again, we should get together because we can party. And so he
what did he say to that?
well, he kind of looked at me like kind of strange. And he said, well, he says, I don't think I'm going to drink anytime soon, but here's my card. It was a business card. And if you decide you want to stop drinking, give me a call. So in those days, we didn't have cell phones or anything, or, you know, so, you know, I took his business card and threw it in my business card basket at home. And, you know, a year went by, and I've been close to losing another job again. I was managing liquor stores.
That's perfect for an alcoholic.
I never missed a day of work.
I bet you didn't.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Or a delivery.
yeah. So anyway, you know, I was getting by just narrowly, and my girlfriend, one night we went out to party, and the next morning we woke up and she was pissed at me. And I said, what's going on? She says, you don't remember? And I go, what?
Right. Oh,
No, I was blacked out. And so she says, you know, you need to stop drinking for 30 days, you know, or I'm leaving. And I said, well, why should I do that? It says, because you don't drink like normal people. And I said, well, I drink like all my friends.
and my friends are normal.
And she says, and they're normal? And so I said, oh. And so I said, yeah, I can do it. You know, no problem. And, you know, and I seriously thought I could. And so I tried, and I couldn't make it any more than a couple hours. And I had to go get a half pint just to maintain. And so she left. And a couple hours later, I went and got another bottle. And, you know, I could not stop, and it really surprised me.
So that was the first time you'd ever been challenged to quit drinking.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 33.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you had a good probably 15, 20 years of
15 years.
of that style of drinking.
Yeah. I drank every day,
Right.
day and night, and
Wow.
in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. So what took you to the AA meeting?
Well, you know, it was my birthday. My birthday is October 11th. And a friend of mine came up from Modesto to party with me in the Bay Area, well, to celebrate. And it was so weird because I couldn't get drunk. I couldn't get sober. I wasn't high. It was just
Nothing.
It was this weird space I was in.
That was my last.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying.
So no matter how much alcohol you drink, nothing. Really?
Yeah.
That's what we know. There's part of my story when I say my body quit processing liquor.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I got terrified.
So yeah, I woke up the next morning, and of course I had to pour my usual drink. I had a bottle of brandy and a 16-ounce glass, and I filled it full. And my friend, he's waking up, and he's got his eyes open, and he's looking at me pouring this glass of wine first thing in the morning. Glass of brandy, and I pick it up, and I knew he was looking at me. I said, "Hey," I said, I have to have this. And he says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'm afraid I'll die if I don't. And I'm afraid I'll die if I do." And he says, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I guess tomorrow," the next day was Monday, "I'm going to call some hospitals and see about checking myself in." Okay. So anyway, next day I called these hospitals, and they wanted $30,000 for 30 days.
That was in the 80s.
That was 86, yeah. And so I said, finally, the third hospital I called, I asked the lady, I said, "Well, what guarantee do you have that I won't drink once I get out?" And she says, "Well, we don't have a guarantee. What we do is suggest that people go to Alcoholics Anonymous because there's no dues or fees to pay. There's, she basically gave me the preamble.
Yeah.
I was just getting ready to say that.
Yeah. And so I said, "Oh, I know somebody who's in Alcoholics Anonymous." It was that guy who did that class. And so I went home and I dug out his business card and I gave him a call. I said, "Hey, I need to stop drinking." And he says, well, I can see you maybe Friday. This was Monday. I said, no. I said, I'm not going to make it.
No, that ain't going to work. That ain't going to work.
I knew I'd be dead because I was bad. So he says, well, okay, I'll see you tomorrow morning. I said, well, make it early. And he says, don't drink between now and then. I said, man, I'll try. I just had one shot of booze. And so I said, okay, I'll try. So I got up the next morning, didn't drink, went and saw the guy. His name was Jay, and they called him Jaybird. It was his nickname. So went and saw him, and he was actually the director of the Contra Costa County Commission on Alcoholism.
Okay.
I'll be darned.
So went and saw him, and he had me read How It Works, the chapter 5 that we read all the time. And he says, okay, what do you think? I said, well, it's very altruistic, but, I can't do this God stuff. And he says, oh, what, you don't have a God? I said, no, I don't have a God in my life. And he said, well, that's okay. He says, Alcoholics Anonymous has a spiritual solution for your drinking problem. And I went, what? I said,
what kind of hoax is this?
Yeah, I don't have to go to your church. I don't have to worship your God. I don't have to have your Jesus or whatever. He said, nope. It's whatever your conception is. So anyway.
Did you find that hard to wrap your mind around when he told you that?
No, because I had actually kind of studied spirituality in Eastern religions ever since I was in 7th grade. And, I knew there was a difference between spiritual and religion.
Okay.
So anyway, then he had me read the appendix on the spiritual experience.
Good. That's a good idea.
Yeah, which was really important. I mean, I'm really grateful that he did because, in it says the only reason we aren't going to believe is because we've made up our mind not to. We're prejudiced against it. We have to be honest, open-minded, and willing. And so right then he says, can you be honest with yourself? And I said, well, he says, it says right here, it says, those who do not recover are people who cannot be completely honest with themselves. I said, okay, I can be honest with myself. I didn't know how honest I was being.
And I, sorry to interrupt, Dawson.
No problem.
But it's what we do. It's what I do. So this is where I had a hard time. When they said, can you be completely honest with yourself? I'm like, I am fucking honest with myself all the time. I didn't realize that I wasn't.
Oh,
so did you have a hard time with you? That was easy for you to wrap your mind around that one too?
No, I knew I'd been lying to myself for years. And I was believing most of what I was lying about.
Because you say it for so long, you just start believing your lie.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, and I knew people who couldn't be honest with themselves. Guys I grew up with, I knew that I wasn't like them for some reason. And so anyway, and then he asked me if I was willing to go to meetings and listen to what people said, and maybe take some of their suggestions. I said, I can be willing to do that. He says, can you be open-minded? And I said, open-minded? He says, yeah, open-minded about new ideas that you may be exposed to. I says, okay, I can be open-minded. And all this time, I didn't know how honest I really could be, but I was willing. I had that iota of willingness to go through with it. And
I told Chris the same thing when I first had hope at Maynard's, when he said, I can help you. And I believed and I had hope. I had willingness. And then he talked about the open-mindedness, willingness. And I said, well, you're going to have to help me with the other two. I'm willing, but I don't know, but I haven't been honest for a long time or open-minded. You're going to have to help me with those two. And I told Jay the same thing. As we go through this, you're going to have to teach me how to be honest with myself and others and open-minded. But I'm willing. That's all I had. So I like that.
The day I said, take me to Maynard's, I was willing right then, right? I was going to do whatever it took. And then I got sober and went, oh, fuck this. I can do it myself, right? I did that. I could do it myself for about 15 days, right? At Maynard's, 15, 20 days, right around there. And then Chris got a hold of me and I was like, oh shit, I've been lying to myself. You know, that's when that came in for me, right? About sober, about day 25, when my counselor showed me how I wasn't being honest with myself.
Yeah. And, you know, I feel, you know, you're talking about this other gentleman earlier, you know, I feel that, you know, at some point we all have to get honest with ourselves if we are going to recover.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that was so hard for him. And I don't mean to take it away from Dawson's story, but when I asked him, do you feel like you can be honest with yourself? I asked him that, and he paused. And I still, now thinking back, I still don't think he ever answered that question. Now that I'm thinking about it.
He's not done.
No.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. So anyway, so he was going to send me to my first meeting. And I said, well, you know, I still don't think I can do this God stuff. And he says, that's okay. He says, just go to a meeting every day and don't drink between meetings, and all this God stuff will follow. I said, yeah, okay. You know, and, you know, sure enough, that's what has happened.
It come rushing
one day at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So when you first felt that, so how many meetings had you been to when you started feeling that?
Oh, it took about 6 months.
Okay.
For me.
Did you ever drink and go to a meeting?
No.
So when you were done, you're done.
I was done.
You never went back at all.
No, that meeting that I was, where I walked in as Bob, you know, the topic, they asked if there's any newcomers, and everybody's kind of looking at me. I don't know why, you know.
Yeah.
I was just sweating profusely, shaking, and, you know, I felt like my hair was on fire.
Yeah.
But they did it on the first step. They did the unmanageability, you know, when you're drinking it. And everybody went around the room and told about the unmanageability of their lives. And it was like, man, these guys drink just like I do.
Right.
They suffer the same consequences I do. And I never heard anybody talk like that before. And so when they got to Bob, they said, hey, Bob, would you like to say anything? And
Did you look around and go, who the fuck is Bob?
I looked around. I did look around. And I go, and everybody's looking at me. And I said, well, I don't know who Bob is, but my name's Dawson. And I'm an alcoholic. And I said, you know, I just don't know what to say other than, you know, I've heard everything I need to, I think, you know. So that was really my first meeting. And, oh, man.
Hey, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a story. Isn't it where you were driving to a liquor store, or you were driving, you were thinking about drinking. You got to a liquor store and there was a payphone you were trying to call, and there was somebody on the other payphone. Tell that story.
Oh, hold on just a second. Because yes, thank you for bringing that up. But can you preference that by how long were you sober when this story happened?
Sure. Yeah. You know, I was sober, and, you know, the first step, you know, I got at the first meeting. I didn't know where in the book it was. In fact, they didn't even give me a big book. They said, well, you know, come back next time, we'll give you one.
They weren't too sure.
They were going to waste $10 on you.
They were taking odds. They were taking bets. Bob Dawson ain't coming back.
Anyway, and then, you know, the second step I worked on a lot, because, you know, we have the Serenity Prayer, and I couldn't say the word God at the beginning of the Serenity Prayer. The Our Father, I couldn't say that.
Why did you have such an aversion to God, do you think? Or do you know?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Then let's have it.
Okay, well, I was sentenced to Catholic school when I was in fifth grade.
I like how you said that. Were you truly sentenced, or did your parents?
It is a sentence.
It was.
Sorry, Catholics, but it is.
It was either that or military school.
Okay, all right. So you were by the courts or by the family?
Family.
Okay, all right.
Okay, now I got a joke about that real quick.
You know, we just went fucking 9 miles around the original question you asked about the telephone story.
We'll be there. So you remember Dennis M? That, you know, he moved to Arizona.
Yeah.
We were sitting at primary one day, and he's big Catholic, and the topic was God, and, you know, how do you find your higher power? And the first 5 people at primary were raised in parochial schools, you know, all this, and here they're in Alcoholics Anonymous. I tapped Dennis and I said, hey, looks like the Catholic Church has done more for Alcoholics Anonymous than fucking Budweiser. And he goes, fuck you. I said Anheuser-Busch. I go, the Catholicism's done more for AA than Anheuser-Busch. And he says, fuck you. Well, look.
Right.
So go ahead, Dawson.
Oh, so anyway, so
We'll get back to the telephone booth. It's a version to God.
So anyway, I went to the school, man, and it was, 55 years ago. They could beat you. They could do all this corporal punishment, and they did, whether you did something wrong or not. I remember, anyway, some terrible things, and it's like, they beat the Jesus out of me, out of us.
I've heard that
what they're
before.
trying to fear the faith in you,
Yeah,
and it doesn't work.
No.
I've actually heard that from Catholics before. They beat Jesus out of me.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
And that's just a sad statement.
Because that's not
Horribly
Jesus.
Sad. No, good gosh, completely opposite of Jesus. Yeah, 100% opposite of him. But it's not the first time I've heard that.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
now let's get back to the telephone.
Okay, the telephone. So over 6 months, I'm working on the second step. I know I got the first step, but I said, I'm still don't have a sponsor. So I talked to these guys. I said, hey, who do you have for a sponsor? I said, well, we kind of sponsor each other. And the next thing you know, these guys are out drinking. They come back 3 weeks later.
So that don't work.
That doesn't work. So, I asked a guy to be my sponsor finally. And I said, I really need to get to the fourth step. I said, I've tried to do this third step on my own. And, I say the prayer and nothing happens. Nothing happens. And so I said the prayer with him. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. So I was in sales, outside sales. And my company had a phone bank that would call to make appointments. And so, my first appointment on a Saturday morning, I went to and knocked on the door and he said, hey, I told him not to send anybody out here. Damn it, get out of here. I said, yeah, right. And I don't know, I just got pissed. And I was at the point where I was so dry.
Right.
I
was going to ask that.
Yeah.
That was obvious.
I was there on a dry, just a dry drunk was.
Sobriety, they call it.
What?
Sobriety.
Sobriety, yeah. So anyway, I turned around and started to walk away, but I went and I knocked on his door again. He opens up the door and he says, I thought I told you to go away. I said, you did, but I just want to say, fuck you first. And so anyway, then I got my car and I was boiling, man. I was like, I don't think I'd ever been that bad before. So I got my car and I was about 20 miles from home. So I called the boss, said I was quitting, and I said, man, I'm going.
Yeah, you were pissed.
Oh yeah. I said, I know what'll make me feel better. It's going to be a drink. And so I got in the car, I'm driving, and I said, man, I'm going to go get a drink. And as I'm driving down the freeway towards the liquor store, the closer I got, I said, well, you know what? I've got 6 months. Do I really want to throw that away and start over? And I said, what about these guys who go out and don't come back? I met some of those, who actually died after a few weeks. And so anyway, I said, no. I said, well, I said, okay, man, what am I going to do? And I just said a prayer. I just said, God, I'm going to drink. I don't want to drink. Please help me. And then I said, God, I don't even believe in you, but I'm going to drink. Please help me. And then I said, God, I'm going to drink. Please help me. And the exit came up to the liquor store. And, I was just holding on to that steering wheel as tight as I could. And zoom, I went by that exit. Oh, man, big relief. But I was still mad. And all of a sudden, I was going to drink. And I knew there was another liquor store at the next exit. And you just had to pull off the freeway and right into the driveway for the liquor store.
They make them convenient.
Oh, yeah, real convenient. So, I'm going to God, I'm going to drink. I don't want to drink. Please help me, over and over again. And this time I turned off the exit, pulled up in front of the liquor store, just right in front of the front door. And so I'm thinking, oh, man, I'm at the liquor store. What am I going to drink? I said, well, I don't want to start off with, a half gallon of booze. I said, what do I do? Oh, I know, I'll drink 2 wine coolers, and then I'll go to the afternoon meeting.
Okay.
Insanity.
Yeah.
Insanity.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm starting to get out of the car, and they say, and then I said, wait a minute, they said there's something I should do before I take a drink. What? Oh, I should call somebody. I said, okay, I'll call this guy who has to be my sponsor. I know he's out of town, but I'll just leave him a message, say I'm going to go to the meeting this afternoon. So I got out and I went to the phone. And in those days, they had phone booths. And the phone was on a pole. And there was a half eggshell covering a phone on each side of the pole. So there was 2 phones on one pole. And so I started to put my money in. It was 90 cents to make a phone call. And all of a sudden the phone starts shaking and I dropped my money and I hit the coin return on the way down. Coins come out and I picked the stuff up and I had enough to make the call. So I started putting the money in again and all of a sudden, bam, bam, bam. I thought, whoa, this is an earthquake or something, and I lost my money and I realized that I looked down where some of my coins fell and there's a pair of boots pointing towards me. And then I'm listening a little closer and I'm hearing somebody beating up the phone on the other side. And so I said, oh man, I know what I'll do. I said, I bet if I punch this guy out, I'll feel better and I won't have to drink.
The guy that's shaking the phone?
Shaking the phone. Yeah. So I reached around the eggshell, around the pole, and I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, hey, and the guy looked at me. I looked at him. He had the phone receiver in one hand, and in the other hand, he had an AA meeting schedule with men's names in it who I knew from the meetings.
That's crazy.
And I said, do you need some help? And he says, yeah. He says, I'm going to drink. I'm trying to call somebody, but nobody's answering their phone. I says, hey, let's go walk across the parking lot and talk about this. So that's why I'm here. So
what are the odds of that happening?
What's
is that odd or is that God?
That is all God. Hey,
did you believe? Did you start to believe from that moment?
Well, not from that moment, but I knew the obsession left. I could feel the obsession.
That obsession left right then.
Right then, I could feel it.
And never came back.
Never came back.
Wow.
So
God is good.
Yeah, when I was talking to people at the meetings about that experience, one guy looked at me and says, that's either odd or it's God. I said, God? Oh, maybe there's something to that. That's when I started to believe,
Right.
A few days later, I said, well, maybe there's a possibility.
There is. Just,
but I love that story when you tell it. And I want to get back to one thing. His father, Dawson, tell us what your father is what he created. What's more than my wife drank back in her high school days. So Dawson, please.
Yeah, my dad was a professional winemaker, so there was booze all the time around the house. But one of the things my dad developed was Boones Farm apple wine and strawberry ale. That was his.
And that's his dad.
I've spent many
when
times at a duck blind drinking.
When we were in Primary Purpose and heard Dawson, my wife was with me, heard Dawson tell the story because she is not a drinker, but in high school. And when you said that, she looked at me and I said, blame his dad.
That's so funny. Yeah. That's so funny. So tell me, Dawson, so you've been sober since 1986. Any thoughts during that period of time where, let me go try this one more time?
Unfortunately, yeah.
But not the obsession, just the thought.
The thought. Right. Because, when I was doing sobriety, I'd see people, they'd go out all the time, people with years of sobriety, and they die, they kill themselves, or sometimes they make it back, and it was never any good. So I said, I'll never be one of those. But by the time I got to 20 years sober, it was like I was making a ton of money. I had 2 houses, trucks, cars, motorcycles.
Oh, yeah. You were good.
I was good.
I was doing this on my own.
Yeah. God gave me the keys to the car. Right. And he said, here, take it for a spin. So that's what I was doing. And, I started a business and, oh man, I took that business out of state and it was the wrong time to start this business. It was a mortgage business and things crashed about a year after I started it in 2006. Yeah. So anyway, I moved out of state, went out to South Dakota and Wyoming because smaller economy, but it was more stable. And then eventually everything shut down there too. So I'd go to meetings there, but it was like, it wasn't, it kind of wasn't the same.
They do it wrong over there, by the way.
Well, it's not that it was wrong. In South Dakota, they had just passed a law that if you're first time drunk driving conviction, you're sentenced to 3 days a week. AA. You have to go 3 days a week. And then you also have to test every day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon.
They're serious.
Yeah.
Wow. I like
serious.
that.
Right.
Yeah. But what it did is it flooded the AA meetings with a bunch of people who
so not so smart.
are smoking pot, doing meth. They aren't drinking, but but they don't want to be there. Hell. Right. So anyway, it really kind of...
That would make for a rough meeting.
Yeah. So anyway, so I went to a couple, but not many. And so I eventually ended up moving back to California. I was living over in Turlock, and one day I was watching TV, and I saw NCIS Miami. There was they were in a hospital, and then there was an AA meeting in the hospital. I'm looking at it, I go, that's not how an AA meeting goes. And then I thought, or is it? Because I hadn't been in a while. So anyway, then right after that, I changed the channel, and it was Locked Up Abroad, and some guy was busted smuggling hash in the middle of the East, and some young kid. I said, man, that could have been me. And then I turned it again, and I forget what came on, but all of a sudden, when I was drinking, I heard a voice, and I didn't know if that voice was me talking or the voice talking to me. And all of a sudden, I heard that voice come out of the wall behind me. And that voice says, you could probably have a drink and nobody would ever know.
Oh, boy.
And I went, what? I turned around, I looked, I said, what's going on? And, the insanity is back.
Right.
And I jumped up and I said, hell no, I can't have a drink. I said, pretty soon my dad will know, my sister will know. Pretty soon all the cops in town will know. And my dog's looking at me like, whoa, you're flipping, Dad. Anyway, I jumped on the computer. I knew I needed a meeting, or I was going to the liquor store. And I jumped on the computer, and there was a meeting starting in 10 minutes, less than 100 yards from my house.
I'll be a son of a bitch.
Yeah. And
Otter God again.
Yeah. So it was either go out the front door, take a left, go 2 blocks to the liquor store, or take a right and go a half a block to the meeting. So I went to the meeting, and man, I've been back ever since with,
How long were you out of meetings?
Well, it was, a couple of years that I was, sparsely going to meetings.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how many years because this is going to wrap back to a topic that came up. How long were you sober? You were about 20 years, you said. You're about 20 years sober. Well, then that goes against what we talked about, because we talked about that 7 to 10 people start trying to do it on their own.
But 7 to 10 is when things start getting good. It's usually 5 to 8.
Right.
I got another question though for Dawson. Talk to me about the steps. Who did you do the steps with? Because eventually you had to do the steps.
Oh yeah. That sponsor I had mentioned earlier, I said, I did do the 4-step. We made appointments to do the 4-step, and the sponsor canceled him every time. And I'm going, what's going on here? So I finally just straight up asked him one time, I says, have you done a 4-step? And he says, no. He said, I thought, we could do it together and I could do mine. And I said, no. I said, that's not going to work. So anyway, I found a guy who talked humbly about his experience drinking. And he talked about things that nobody would ever want to mention in a meeting, but he humbly talked about those things. I go, man, if this guy can talk about those things like that, I can talk to him about anything. So, I asked him to be my sponsor. His name was Bob Burton. That's how he introduced himself at meetings. He's been dead now for a while. But he's the one who I took the steps with. And And, just amazing things started to happen once I started taking the steps.
Like what?
Like I started getting to know who I was.
Right.
Because all that shit.
Because you were being honest finally with yourself.
Right. Yeah.
But you had not. So you started drinking young and went right in. So your progression started out as a teenager, right? So like for me, I drank as a teenager, but then I didn't drink for 20 years, right? When I was raising my kids, drinking was not for me. I didn't really get heavy into my alcoholism till 45, probably 40, 45, after both my kids were grown and gone and taking care of themselves at least. And that's when my drinking, I got bored, right? I got bored at home, and I was starting to work more and traveling more and blah, blah, blah. And that's when my drinking took off and got worse. So, for me, that going away and coming back in and taking those steps, it took on a whole different meaning for me. You never knew a sober life, really. A period of sober time.
No. Once I was at that hippie park and they're passing around the jug of Red Mountain Burgundy, I took a couple drags off that. All my problems went away. I got up the next morning. Well, I slept in the park, so my first drunk was sleeping in the park. And then got up the next morning. I went to school, but I stopped by the liquor store and got 2 half quarts of beer and drank them riding my bike to school. And then when school was over.
How old were you?
I was 17.
They didn't, you know what? Legal drinking age was still 18?
Yeah. No,
okay.
I was 21.
But you didn't have any problem walking in and buying
No, and that's the thing. I was about the same size I am now, and I had long hair and a beard.
Okay.
And
I don't think it was really enforced that much back in the.
Probably not as much, but I found I could go into any liquor store and I could buy whatever I wanted to. So it made it easy. And I bought every day and I drank as much as I could every day right from the get go.
So you didn't have a progression. You went right at it.
Yeah.
Wow. 0 to 80.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, well, the thing is, you don't understand what progression is then. I mean,
well, I've seen it in other people.
Oh, no, absolutely. But you didn't know, you didn't feel it in yourself. I mean, you went.
But what he saw, the alcoholism took effect, but the progression of consequences.
Right.
Oh, if you hear Dawson's story, the consequences got.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Huh.
Yeah. All the drunk drivings, lost jobs, lost relationships, family.
Tell me about the promises in your life when you got sober.
Promises, I mean, they're all in the book,
right?
Which ones?
Well, when did you feel them starting to come back to you? When did you see that starting to happen?
Right away once I got through that 4th and 5th step, and because by that time I was on step 6 and 7, and I was trying to exercise this idea of God that I was coming up with, and. And as I started looking back from the day that, I was with my friend drinking on my last real day of drinking, up through that day of sobriety, where I started realizing that, God was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. I managed liquor stores, and the day I went to talk to Jaybird, I got home from there, and on my answer machine was the vice president of the company. And he said, call me. So I called him, and he said, good news, bad news. I said, well, what's the bad news? He says, well, our umbrella company just went bankrupt, so we're closing down all the stores. So all of a sudden, I don't have to go to work. I don't have to walk in
to a liquor store.
To a liquor store.
Into the cold box the next morning.
Do I sound different now?
You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that was one.
What was the good news?
The good news is that since I was in management, they gave me a year's severance pay and a year medical. And I said, man, I don't have to worry about going anywhere for work right now.
That's a
gift.
gift.
I can just concentrate on sobriety, man. So, and then from there, things just, started doing that. It was odd or God, I realized, all the time. And most of the stuff was too odd not to be God.
Right. Would you ever take it back? If you were give one of the
We ask the same kind of question. Well, science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. And we always ask this question to people who've worked the steps, and you've had a lot of sobriety, obviously. If science one day accomplished, made a pill, would you take it and give away this to go back to that? Go back to a life where you could, I guess, maybe drink like a gentleman.
Yeah. No, if they had a pill where I could drink like a gentleman, I wouldn't want to take it because when I drink, I want to get fucked up. It's like
there's a purpose why I drink.
Right.
I don't drink for the flavor.
What the fuck's a gentleman anyway?
Sure the fuck ain't me. Yeah. That we always try to ask that question because it's funny how we get different answers from people. Mike says if they made a pill for it, I'm an alcoholic. I wouldn't want one. I'd take two.
Yeah, I'd take two. Yeah.
That's always funny.
But you get the same answer. No.
I mean, I hear people say this all the time, and Brad preaches it probably more than any. You hear me when I preach mine is the darkness and no longer living in that depression, right? The serenity I have in my life, the peace that I have inside of me it overshadows anything that I've ever felt in my life, right? That I would never do anything to jeopardize that. I got that from this program, right? God has given me peace because I've turned it all over to Him, and the more I turn over to Him, just the more and more easy things go. Things just, when the book tells us we cease fighting, that wasn't just the alcohol. When I
it says anything and everything,
right? When
even
I just
alcohol.
ceased fighting everything and just turned it over and said, "Here, take this. I don't want this anymore," right? People, nice motorhome. You want it? Take it. It's not mine. It's not. I mean, it's in my name and it's parked in my driveway, but take it. Take it for a ride. I don't care. Right. And these are the things that brand new truck that was just given to me. I'm honestly thinking about putting the license plate, not mine, on the license plate because it's not mine. It literally is not mine. Right. It's not, but it's everything that's happened in our lives. It's all because I turned it over. This program taught me that, right? And the more I give back, turn it over and give to Him, the more the blessings that just trickle down to me. And just like I said, going back, Chris, that was a blessing for me. I just did everything for Him. And the more I did, the more blessings I got to me. So why should I be sad about, Him doing what He does?
I'm sad because I know where it's going to end up with Him, but it is what it is.
People
brother.
die every day.
That's
you
right.
know what? It is.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Once again, I mourn the disease. I mourn the disease.
Can I say one thing?
No.
I'm going to. I'm going to whoop your ass. But before we got on air here, Larry said he was going to make an amends to make? Hold on. Dawson, isn't the ninth step, well, it's actually step 10, if we step on someone's toes, we make amends quickly if we harmed anybody. And he said he had to make amends, so I don't want to take that from you, so go ahead.
Something just kick you in the head to remind me of this?
I don't know.
We're in the middle of talking to Dawson, and you're going to bring this shit up.
No, just, hey, it comes up when it comes up. Is that honor God?
I owe you this.
Oh, you do? Oh, it's just the amends.
I owe this to you.
The amends is to me, Dawson. Did you hear that? What did you do?
I called you a dipshit last week because you didn't know what episode we were on, and I emphatically told you were fucking wrong, and I was 1,000% wrong. What was so fucked up is when I was listening to the podcast, editing it, and I'm listening to myself tell you you're a dipshit. You don't know what you're talking about. And I look up at the episodes and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. But you know what, Dawson? It was your fault that messed me up on that.
Oh, hold on. No ownership. You hear that shit? What kind of fucking amends is that? You realize you're wrong. Hey, Rob, I was wrong. Please forgive me. What can I do to make it right? And he blames Dawson. Take ownership, you fucking dick.
Did. God damn it. That 1,000%. I am so very sorry I said that to you.
I forgot all about that, by the way, but it's all right.
I felt like a shithead when I'm editing that. I'm sitting in I was out of town. I was putting stuff together and I'm editing that and I'm listening to it and I'm like, God damn it. I got to call him and apologize. And I'm like,
no. We don't apologize. We make amends. That's different.
Well, whatever. Yeah, same thing. I said, you know what? I'm going to wait to do it on the air so everybody can understand. I mean, these are the things we do. I fucked up.
So what are you going to do to make it right to Rob?
I just did. I ain't fucking rubbing his feet or anything. Fuck him.
I don't have my feet out. So now let's go back because Dawson came to do this last week, but vertigo happened and we had a little moment.
Right. That was scary.
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
I didn't think people could get that white.
I didn't either.
Dude,
it's rare.
That's rare. So tell me about your recovery, Dawson, because I want to talk
86, what do you have? I mean, I can't do numbers that fast. How many years sober are you right now? Because you just had a birthday in October.
Yeah, 38.
38 years. Wow. That's fucking awesome.
That's incredible.
But, really, I woke up at 8 o'clock this morning, so I've only got...
That's what I told the guys this morning, who got up the earliest.
Right.
But for the last, I don't know how many years at Primary Purpose, every time we have a birthday speaker meeting, you're giving someone to chip. You're helping a lot.
Seems like it.
God has, blessed you to help a lot of people, which is awesome.
Yeah.
What is the biggest joy you get out of Alcoholics Anonymous today?
Fellowship, obviously, but, personally, it's that I have peace and serenity in my life. That's something that
Larry loves that too.
Oh my God.
That's something that I didn't want when I got here. Peace and serenity.
I did. I was chasing it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I've got it. And it's like, I don't want to give that up.
Yeah. I was so deep into my depression and I was chasing peace with my alcohol. I can say that even when I say it now, I still get emotional. I was chasing that serenity and that peace with my alcohol. And
what I feel now is what I think I was trying to find through that. I didn't know what this even was.
1000%.
But then once we feel it, this is what I was really looking for. I didn't know.
Yeah, living life without that anxiety and that just that pure anger inside, right? That fire that it starts in your belly and your heart pumps 19,000 miles an hour and your head goes 9 million different directions and I got to have a drink to calm my brain down, or I got to have a drink to stop thinking, and
I got to have a drink to go to sleep. How am I going to sleep tonight? Then you wake up at midnight after you had a fifth, right? After I had a fifth, what am I doing awake?
Right. And then for me, I'd go out in the garage and grab a hold of the rest of it to try and get me back. Yeah. And it was just that. And when I got my first grip of serenity at Maynard's, I wanted it. I wanted all of it, and I wanted every ounce of it. And, and one of the things I always tell, the sobriety is whatever, great. I don't drink. I love that part. Right. Cause then I'm going to live to be,
but you have to have that before you get
1,000%
the other.
Yes. Because I would never jeopardize my serenity by taking another drink of alcohol. Right. There's just, I don't understand, for me, I just don't get it because, why on earth would, we talk about it all the time. Why would a dog go back to look up his own puke?
Because they're not spiritually fit. We right now it's hard to go back to that thought process because we're spiritually fit. Yep. Man, how could you do that? But we got to remember when those people are there, we were there and try to, but now Dawson, Larry and I and some of the Monday Night Brothers are going to set up a trip to go to Canada. Because the internationals, but you go to Spain every year. Do you go to what is that now? I don't know if Larry knows about that, but there's something. Okay, tell me about that.
My first sponsor's wife.
Is that Bob?
Bob, but his wife Gwen. Some of the people may know her as Gwen the Pen from Bristol, England. Anyway, she's incredible. But we've been friends for 38 years. Mm-hmm. And she said I might be interested in going to this little convention that they have in Spain, a little village they have in Spain. I said, well, sure, I'll try it. Yeah. So I went there and Costa de Mar is the name of the town. And oh, man, it's only about 350 people. They bill it as the International English-Speaking Convention of Alcoholics Anonymous, the annual international. So anyway, and there's people from all over the world there. Australia, India, Pakistan, Germany, Austria, France, just all over Europe. And get to meet these people. And you know what? They got sober just like I did. They drank just like I did. And now they're living, a life just like I do because they're in recovery.
You go every year?
I did for a while. I didn't go this year because I wanted to save my pennies for Canada.
Oh, Canada.
Oh, you're going?
Yeah. Who else from Primary is going?
I know.
I'll probably cut this part. I was just curious.
Why?
I don't know.
Yeah. So
If I have,
I know a few of the women are going. Judy's going.
Okay.
I think Carol's going. Some other people.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm excited to go. In fact, when you said that, I forgot to buy our tickets for the flight. I was going to buy them this week because they're going to start raising in price.
Yeah.
So let me know.
Yeah, we need to do it.
Bonnie told me to.
No, I know. I'll get with Doug tomorrow. Like
Okay.
I said, I'm going to cut this out. This is off air stuff, but I will get with. This evening I will get up there and look again. Yeah. So is there anything else you want to talk about, Dawson, before we wrap up?
Well, I don't know. I had a great experience last night. Last
night, that I was there.
Yeah. Well, actually, at dinner.
Oh, let's have it.
Yeah. So as I go on in sobriety, longer I'm sober, I think, well, maybe I peaked. But new stuff happens all the time, and the opportunity for growth happens all the time. But last night at dinner, there's a woman sitting across the table from me, and she just celebrated 41 years. And I'd never really talked to her. And so she's, one of the guys said that when he got sober in Santa Barbara, they used to go to Caro's, after the meeting. And I said, Caro's? I said, when I was in Pleasant Hill, we'd go to Caro's after the meeting. And this woman with 41 years says, oh, I remember that. And I'm, what? I said, you were there in Pleasant Hill? I said,
I see where this is going.
Pleasant Hill group. I said, okay. And I said, yeah, that was my home group after Concord Originals. That's where I got sober. And she says, oh, yeah, Concord Originals. I was there all the time. And so we started talking about people we knew. And in those days, everybody had nicknames, like Jay Bird or Fast Eddie, Chicken Tom, Happy Jack, Drunk Jim. I mean, everybody had a nickname. And we started talking about all these people I hadn't thought about, for decades, and just brought it back to life. And I realized what a great foundation in sobriety I had, getting sober there. And I hope to be able to give some of that foundation away.
You do. You give a lot of that foundation away, buddy.
You do.
A lot of it.
There's several reasons why I love Primary Purpose, and that it's my home group, right? I say that it's so very difficult for me to get there because first off, it's a long ways, and I hate saying that because look at how far they used to drive back in the 30s,
and how far did we go to drink or use?
Right,
we would go anywhere.
So I hate saying that, but I'm every time I go there, right, I remember the joy of the first day I walked in there. When I see you, when I see Michael, Salem, Harry, all the old timers that sit in there, Jay, Jeanette, everybody that I see, I just get the joy because it's like walking in.
It's still my home group.
It's like walking
That's
home.
why I got sober.
It's like walking home for Christmas, right? You walk in at Christmas time or Thanksgiving and you smell the turkeys and everything. It's that feeling I have when I walk in there, and I love it and I enjoy it and I miss it. For my spiritual walk, I've learned to do so many different things for my sobriety. And I just had this conversation with somebody that says, I got to do meetings every day. And I'm like, well, listen, and this is my opinion, right? I'm going to preference this. I'm going to say, when I got sober, I was hitting a meeting every day for about 3 weeks. I literally got to a point where I was starting to get a resentment to having to do that shit every day. And I was talking to Katie one night coming home. I'm like, you know what? I need to take a couple days, right? I just need to take a couple days. I took a couple days off and I wanted to get back to AA, right? I wanted to get back. And then, so I would go for a couple days and I would pull back a little bit. And then I got to where, you know what? I'm going to go to Northside. Let me go check out that meeting. And so I did, and I enjoyed that for a little while. Yeah. And then when I started going to Waterford out here,
a lot of California sober over there, boy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, but I just I found my point in that is I found my own way on how I wanted to do my sobriety. Right. I am not a person that does stuff cookie cutter every day, doing the same
there's people that need that. There's
thing,
people that don't.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I think this is what I'm trying to get out to people is, hey, if you're hitting a meeting every day
And that works for you?
and that works for you, God bless. But don't let somebody tell you have to do it every day, right? Do a meeting.
Find out what works for you.
Find what works for you. Find your balance. That's what the word I wanted to
And
say.
hold on, because there's times I still, still struggle because God will throw a lot at me. I'll be doing our Monday night group, Tuesday night men's Bible study, which I love. And sometimes, and we got those are my two.
Right.
And then we'll have the men's Saturday meeting, which I love. 3.
Yeah. Yeah. For
Then
me.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, sometimes God will send me step work.
Right.
And I'll get myself, you don't want to let, what do they say, Dawson, don't let the life that AA provided get in the way of your AA life. Right, but there's that balance, and sometimes my pendulum swings one way, Yeah, but I'm not. But God's taken my obsession. I'm not going to drink.
No,
but
me neither. But I have to keep that in check, right? I have to keep that. When I feel myself getting that little bit of dry in me, I got to go, right? But I'm also very vigilant about getting up, either reading or listen to some other podcast, because I travel so much and gone so very often.
Dawson, what do you do? I mean, you're like your morning routine, that we would call like a step 11, your morning, evening. How do you get your mind right with the Lord, with your God, before you start your day? And has that changed? I'm sure it's changed in 38 years, but what do you do today?
Oh, so, when I wake up, when I go to bed, I thank God, review my day and, sort of do what it says in the 11th step, where could I have done things better? And, thank God for another day sober and I can sleep. And then when I wake up, I usually say a short prayer again. I'm not one to pray and pray. They're all short prayers, and and so my prayer in the morning is kind of the combination of the 7th step prayer, 3rd step prayer, and then I read the little black book.
24-hour day.
24-hour day. Because in that book, you kind of cheat because it has the thought for the day.
Yeah, and the prayer. Yeah, I love it.
It has the the prayer for the day. So, that's how I get started. And
I love it.
And I think about, I'm retired now, so I think about who I can help today. Who
can you be a blessing to?
Yeah,
right. So, Dawson, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. I love seeing you.
So one of these times, one of our future podcasts are going to be Dawson here and Michael here, and we'll have. I'm going to pull a topic from here, and we're going to just let you two.
Yeah,
we're going to shut him up, and we're just let you two go, if that's possible. Give him a bag of Cheetos, and he'll be quiet.
Dude, you got to lay off the Cheetos, man. I'm going to begin to think you're thinking of that way too much, brother. Way too much.
I'll do some step work on that shit.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you, Dawson. Remember, if you want to get a hold of us or talk to Dawson, reach out to us. We're at recoveryunfilteredpodcast at gmail.com. That's recoveryunfilteredpodcast at gmail.com. Rob.
Larry, thank you for the amends, buddy.
You deserved it, brother.
Yeah.
Out. Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you learned something today that will help you.
If you did not, come back next week and we'll try again.
If you like what we heard, give us a 5-star review. If you don't like what you heard, kiss my... You can't say that, can you? Anyway, if you don't like what you heard, go ahead and tell us that too. We'll see what we can improve. We probably won't change nothing, but do it anyway.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Come back next week and hopefully something will be different and something will sink in. Take care.
This has been Recovery Unfiltered.